This is the Bonneville Up to Speed podcast. I'm Kevin Ostie, and this is a podcast covering all things land speed racing, from vintage small displacement motorcycles all the way on up to cutting-edge streamliners and everything in between. And today, it's another two-aspect special episode. First, we are here at the Nugget Casino in Wendover during Speed Week at the car show, which is pretty cool. But second is my very, very special guest, Mr. Tony Thacker. Welcome.
Hi. Good to see you, Kevin.
Good to see you too. And
yeah, I've never been on a two-ass interview before.
there you go. I don't do anything half-assed. That's all the way, my
It's
friend.
good to be here.
Yeah. So, Tony, tell me a little bit about what you're doing here this week.
Well, this is almost my 50th. I came here in 1975 on my honeymoon.
On your honeymoon?
Yeah, on my first honeymoon. Not married to that woman anymore, but we're still good friends. But yeah, I just got bitten by the bug on that trip and have been back, not every year, but many, many years. Owned my own car from about 2001 with Jimmy Shine, and our plan was just to drive to Bonneville, run fast, go home, and but there's no doing that. It ran like 160, 180, and we thought, well, we can go 200, and we ran 200, and we thought, well, we can get a record, and eventually we did.
That's awesome.
With Jimmy driving in 2006. We got a record at 206 miles an hour, which is pretty good for a street roadster at that time.
For any time, man.
Yeah, for any
Sure.
time. It was good, yeah.
And your drive up was from Southern Cal to here?
Yeah, so we would drive up, put the blower on the car and do some other little mods and go out and race it and take it home. It was great. It was incredible to do that. I mean, just, especially for an immigrant, that was like a dream come true. It's just amazing that you could even do that sort of thing.
And again, that's a dream come true for
anybody. For Americans.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a foreigner, it's just amazing.
So when you did your first trip here, and would you say 75?
75, yeah.
Did you live here yet, or?
No. Well, my first wife and I, we were on our honeymoon. And we bought an old car in New York and drove across and did, the Street Rod Nationals and the Van Nationals. And
Wow.
I said, let's go to Bonneville. And what was amazing about Bonneville, everybody was friendly, but here there was a different sort of atmosphere. And we immediately bonded with all of these different racers, Jerry Kugel, people like that who have been racing here forever. And it was just an amazing family atmosphere that we really, really latched onto. And some people took us home, and we stayed at their house. And I just was enamored with it.
It is a really interesting community, and I think part of that is because there's really nothing to win.
Well, that's true. There is a red hat, and that's a different story.
Well, and that's important to those who know what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't think people would be quite as generous of their time if there was $1 million on the line for the next run.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about going out there, and you typically you're in a class of one or two cars, so you're racing yourself, and you're just trying to do better. But it's a tough place to race. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not easy, and we've been racing with our English friend Jeff Stilwell since 2018. And we've barely raced in the last 6 years since he got a record in 2018 because of the weather and because of COVID and all of these other obstacles that get in your way.
Yeah.
Plus, he lives in England. The crew lives in England, so he has to fly the crew over. We look after the car in Pomona, California at Mixed Paint, but the rest of the logistics are really hard.
For sure.
Yeah.
So when you were growing up, was it Hot Rod Magazine, or where did you hear about all this?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I had a paper route. And somebody on my paper route had Hot Rod Magazine, and I was never smart enough to ask who or why. That was 1962, but I'd sit on the curb, surrounded by grey cars, grey skies, reading about red and yellow cars under blue skies, and I was sold. Fuck that Formula One. Sorry. Forget that Formula One. I mean, I just wasn't interested in that. I was interested in chrome and candy and all of those other things that spelled America.
The magazine did a great job of selling you the California myth.
Back then, and there was a story that Dick Wells wrote about the Bakersfield Big Go, which was the Fuel and Gas Championships. I think it was in '63.
Yeah.
And I had never read, I'm goosebumpy now, I had never read a race event coverage that grabbed me so much as that. I mean, it did. I was sold. So, yeah, and then luckily enough, I got to move here and went to work for SEMA and got to understand, the industry as a whole. And you know what that's like. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. Yeah. So, it really is, moving to America and dream coming true. It's incredible.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And it's great to see that, that hasn't worn off. You're still here and enjoying it.
Oh, still here, still enjoying it. And we have a guy working on our team now Corey Silk, his dad was an incredible engineer called Silky. He helped build the car that we race, and unfortunately he died of leukemia. And Corey's here. He was born in America, and we're trying to encourage him to come here, because if you're a car guy, it's still a place that you can come and live your dream. I have one friend from England who was a hot rod builder, and he always wanted to go to Indy and work on the crew at Indy. Well, he eventually got to be the crew chief for Dan Gurney, went to Indy as crew chief, and they won.
Wow.
Yeah, and they won.
For
So
Gurney,
I mean,
too, Jesus.
yeah, and he did that within 7 years of moving here. That's just phenomenal.
It is unbelievable.
You know, it's incredible. So you know, it's still possible, because the industry is massive. There's massive amounts of money. There's massive amounts of enthusiasm. So you can come here and say, I'm going to do that, and you can go do it.
You know, my own story is similar, because I grew up reading.
We don't care
Hot
about
Rod
your
magazine.
story.
No, I know they never did. It's true. But I was just some jerk in the Midwest who got to work for Hot Rod and do their television show.
And isn't it incredible that you can go and work for Hot Rod magazine?
Yeah, and
that's just amazing.
It's funny when you tell these stories; they almost don't sound like they're true.
Yeah.
But I lived it. It is.
And you lived it. And when we moved here, about 6 of us all moved here in the late 80s, and we were incredibly lucky. Everybody went different directions, but because everybody was so friendly and so enthused by our enthusiasm, they made it happen. Chuck Lombardo just died, and Chuck Lombardo was one of the guys that embraced us all, and we could go and hang out at his shop. Chuck would give us work. I mean, Chuck just took care of us. Same with Pete Traporis and those guys. I mean, it was absolutely amazing, and I don't think that would happen anywhere else.
No, and I joke with the guys that run the logistics of SEMA, the companies that put on the show with the booths and all that stuff, and tell them, like, if there's like a dental hygienist convention, I bet it sucks. It's not.
Oh yeah, it's not going to be this. No, it's not going to be anything like it. Yeah. And Bonneville still has that. You know, it's still a sort of, you know, it's a cliche to say that it's a sort of the last place for amateur racing. But I brought a friend of mine who's never been here before, and you know, he said, I can't believe the diversity and the wackiness of all these vehicles, whether they're motorcycles, whether they're cars. You can build anything and race it. Yeah, you know, and there's a class for pretty much everything. And
it'll fit in somewhere.
Yeah, and you know,
which also can be part of the challenge, because this is not an easy rule book to understand.
Oh,
you look at the abbreviations on the side of the car, you have no idea what any of them mean.
What does that mean?
Yeah. But that means that everybody can play.
Yeah, and I mean, guys, you know, we've met guys from England, guys from Japan, guys from Europe, guys from New Zealand, and the whole world has this as a little mecca for land, you know, for land speed going racing fast, and it's where people want to come to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and it is hard to race, though.
It is very hard to race.
Yeah.
What I'm recognizing more and more is that I think more people would do this if they got hooked, if they felt that sense of speed. Mm-hmm. You know, and we were talking about how do you give ride-alongs in a car, even if it goes 100 miles an hour, but how do you just get somebody in something and take them for a ride?
Absolutely.
Because that's how you're going to grow.
And that's the hard thing. I mean, Nestor and I, we go to all sorts of events, as do you, and not that this should be a platform, but I really think the SCTA needs to look at how it can attract young people to this sport, because it's difficult to do. You need, you know, even at the lower ranges, you still need safety equipment and a roll cage and all that kind of stuff. And you need to get here. It's not an expensive town to stay in. You know, the rooms are expensive. They need to find a way to make it easier.
Yeah.
Which is what drag racing did, you know, which in 1949. It was an easy way to go racing. So let's go drag racing and not land speed racing, which is, you know, where it came from.
Well, and NASCAR was patterned after baseball.
Yeah.
You got Little League, you got, you know, Farm League.
Yeah, you've got leagues, you've got a way to grow your way up. And I think we have to look at that if we don't want it to die. But then the other part of me says, I don't care whether it dies. I had a great time. I lived the best bit. If the kids today would rather be on their phone than be racing cars, that has to be okay.
So here's my thoughts on that. And a lot of times you talk about kids and the generalization that they're not as competitive and they don't care as much. But you know what? The video game world is all about setting records and scores and everything else. And it's mentally dynamic.
Yeah.
But I think if you take a kid that is racing a car in a video game and get them out here, that's what they're going to do.
Yeah. Now, Lester and I went to an event called Airstrip Attack, and it's run by young guys. It's side-by-side land speed racing on airstrips. And it's phenomenal. They line up in pairs, they stage in pairs, they burn out in pairs, and then from then on it's a single race and you're just racing yourself against the clock.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely phenomenal, just unbelievable. And they do it more in your area now. They can't do it so much in California anymore, but it's called airstripattack.com.
Airstrip Attack.
And there's like 140 cars, mostly late model performance cars, BMWs and things. But I mean, because we were there and Big Red was there racing the Camaro, and you look at all that money, and there were 5 guys in Nissan GTRs that were all faster. And they could drive there and drive home with the air conditioning.
Yeah, right.
So, but that's okay. I'm totally
one
cool
of those
with
was
that.
under warranty.
Yeah, and I'm totally cool with that. That's just fine because they're out there doing it. And so I think there's ways to sort of reinvent the sport. And they were right on top of the times, the numbers, all of that stuff, which this is not. It's like archaic in how they give you the results. You can't get the results for a week if you're a journalist.
Right.
You know, it's like, where are they? And those guys there on top of it, they're giving you what you need in real time, and that's what makes it that exciting.
Maybe these people should talk to those people.
I think they should.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
When I was on the airplane, a gentleman sitting in the next row, there was a white-haired guy and a little kid. You're not even. You got a lot of whatever color.
Whatever color it is. Salt and pepper. Yeah.
Yes. So there was this guy, and he leans over and he said, "Are you going to Speed Week?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I've never been. You have any tips?" And I'm like, "Well, the flight's not long enough, But
to give you the tip,
what I learned is that this guy lives in Indy, and he's been to the 500 for the past 50 years. And the little grandson that was with him, granddad promised his grandson, when you turn 10, he promised all of his grandkids, when you're 10, pick a trip and we'll do it. And this one wanted to come here.
Oh, wow.
And I said, how do you learn about this? And he said he watches stuff online. He's read about it. Thought this is the greatest thing ever. So that was neat, a 10-year-old.
Oh, yeah. And then if you walk around here, I mean, yes, there are a lot of old grey-haired guys racing, and they've been doing it for years, but there are an awful lot of young people racing too. So it's just a matter of, the money and the wherewithal and the help from somebody to figure out how you go do that. It's
so you spend a lot of time doing a lot of different media stuff and writing, and we see you all over. So what's your main deal these days?
I still write a little bit for Hot Rod Magazine on events all over the world. Luckily, I'm lucky enough to go to Europe, or just came back from Brazil. I'm very lucky to be able to do that and go pick events and say, like last year I went to Denmark to the Romo beach race. It's an incredible beach race in Denmark. One-day race, 20,000 people.
Wow.
Absolutely incredible. If you ever get a chance to cover it. And it's just a 8th mile drag race on sand with funky old hot rods. Just cool. Great. Yeah. And they have another one in England called Pendine. That's cool. And they have two events over here called the RPM Nationals, which are run by some American guys, and it's just the same. It's just funky old hot rods racing on old airstrips, minimal rules, and I just love that. I really like that part of it. I don't like professional racing too much. Done that.
And again, there's a different level of soul when it's a bunch of guys in the garage that put something together, as opposed to some beer brand or major department store.
And I think it's very tough for young people nowadays because careers are difficult, jobs are difficult, they can't earn enough money, you can't think about buying a house, so how can you think of having a multi-$100,000 race car? There's got to be, and that's where NHRA and the junior drag racing really did a good job in getting young people into the sport. And I think other sports need to look at something like that if they can. I don't know.
Well, I think we met when I was doing Hot Rod, and I remember us sitting at the hooker bar in Vegas.
I have never been there.
Never been there.
Never been there.
At least I didn't get roofied, and that's a different story. But I remember the crowd that was there. Peach Boris was there, and Blackie's throwing dice.
Oh, we were just talking about that.
And so to be able to meet a lot of the people that I read about, it was just an amazing thing. So whatever we can do to meet that next generation through video or through these kind of things, and let everybody know that the automotive world is real people.
Absolutely, and they're great people. I mean, they're when I first came here, I met with Chaporis, and he said, "Oh, you should come to SEMA and have lunch and start networking." I thought, what the heck does networking mean? I don't think we had that word in England at the time.
Yeah.
So I went and I got a job, and I got to understand what networking was.
Yeah.
I mean, through SEMA, I met everybody from George Bush to Billy Gibbons, and
For sure.
and everybody in between. And this industry, as you know, is all about connections. It's not about making a proposal or doing anything like that. It's about who you know and your reputation as to whether you delivered or not.
For sure.
Because lots of people come to me and ask me about sponsorship. How do we get sponsors? Well, you've got to deliver 10 times what they gave you.
Even before they give it to you.
Even before they give it to you, you've got to start that work. And a lot of people don't understand that, but a lot of young people can do that because they understand how that media works. I just did a story about Cletus McFarlane.
Oh,
Absolutely phenomenal. Whether you like it or not doesn't matter.
Right.
What the guy does is just amazing.
Well, he's like the gold standard of all that.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And but when you look at what he did, I mean, I talked to him and he said he posted on the hour, every hour, all through his school.
Yeah.
So he wasn't doing any schooling. He was worrying about building his brand,
Working though.
Yeah, but working it.
Yeah.
Yeah, persistent. And so I think in a world today, you can do that because when we started, you were writing a press release and you were hoping a magazine is going to publish it.
And then you wait 3 months.
And you wait 3 months and then it doesn't come out,
Yeah.
And so now you can generate that media yourself and build, that reputation and that relationship and that brand. You can do it on your own.
I was talking to some, a lot of people who came up with, earlier generations, and they said, well, yeah, we used to read Hot Rod or Rod and Custom or whatever, Motor Trend, and those are all gone. Those magazines don't reach, And I remind them that there are individuals, Cletus is a great example, but there are singular people that have a social presence far bigger than any of those magazines ever were.
Ever had.
Yes.
Ever had, yeah.
And there's thousands of them.
Yeah,
This industry is huge, and it's growing. This stuff isn't going away.
It isn't going away.
It's just changing.
Yeah. And now we sort of, I'm not a, what's the word? I don't dislike electric cars. I kind of like them for what they can kind of do, but I think we all now realise that it's not going to replace gasoline cars because we haven't got enough electricity.
For sure,
but we've got plenty of gasoline.
Yeah.
So this is not going away. It's growing.
But hey, if there's two of them, let's race them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's
figure out a way to
Henry Ford.
Be enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, go do it.
All right, man. Well, hey,
is that good?
That's wonderful. Is
Good.
there something that people can check out? Something that you're working on? Where can they find you, or just keep their eyes open? Because I think a lot of people read your stuff or see your stuff.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
don't
Hot
know
Rod
it's you.
Magazine, and we have a great little online magazine called TorqTalk, although I can't pronounce that real well. But TorqTalk.com. Yeah, how do you say it?
TorqTalk.
TorqTalk. There you go. Yeah,
You
go
still
out there
didn't
and
do
check
it.
it out.
Yeah.
And we cover events from all over the world. It's great. I was looking at some of the figures. I was amazed at how many people look at our stuff. It's staggering.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's great. So yeah, I mean, I still love it, and I've tried to retire a couple of times, and I just can't do it because I love this stuff so much.
That's the thing.
I just want to go somewhere and have another event.
Right on. Well, Tony, listen, it's always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you so much. It's great.
This has been our good friend, Mr. Tony Thacker, who always likes to take a jab at me, which is good. It keeps me
Somebody
grounded.
should.
Yeah, a lot of people don't.
You're too big to jab.
Well, this is the Bonneville Up to Speed podcast. If you like this kind of stuff, hit that subscribe button, and the next episode will magically appear in some device of yours, uninvited. Pretty cool. This podcast is done with the blessing of the SCTA. If you want to come out to Bonneville or learn more about their schedule, it's scta-bni.org. I encourage you to check that out. And for Mr. Tony Thacker, I'm Kevin Ostie, and now you are up to speed.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Is that all right?